Hi everyone, this is Alan. I'm back and I'm going to start my lecture on Chapter 2. Now this is a very critical lecture for us, friends, because the elements in Chapter 2 are going to form the foundation of everything that we discuss, not everything, but most of what we discuss in our future chapters as far as valuation. Okay, because financial analysts have this funny thing that they do. We all take future numbers and say, okay, what are they worth today? Your ability to do that will allow you to not only evaluate things like capital projects that your boss asks you about. What is this going to return to me if I invest this money today? But it will allow you to understand how your money works. I went to buy a car once, and the salesperson, I won't mention the dealership, but the salesperson said, this is a 1% financing rate. And when he left for a moment, my wife and I pulled out our calculator and determined, with very simple math, that it was indeed a 7 or 8% rate that he was trying to charge us. Okay, so as a consumer and as a savvy financial pro and investor, you want to make sure that you know how to understand the numbers. We call it making the numbers dance. Okay, the person, by the way, refused to believe me, but we did end up getting our way. So always be aware of the numbers because they can work to your betterment and your ignorance of them could work to your detriment. Okay? Now, up here in front of you on the screen, up here, you see Chapter 2. This is right out of my book. And I want to highlight the main page for you to make a point. Okay, the time value of money. Money has a time value, one of the 5 principles I discussed in my previous lecture. Okay, now, I'm taking a college student who is around 20, and he or she wants to know how much money they will have when they are 60. So that's 40 years. If they were to invest $1,000 today, at 5%. Okay, now money has a time value. That means 3 things. It means, as we can see on this Excel spreadsheet, that as we learned in high school, interest is a function, the amount of interest is a function of P, which means principal, the amount of money you have involved in the deal, whether you're investing or whether you're borrowing, times R, which is a percentage rate expressed in terms of an annual amount. Okay, like 5%, 3%, 2%. And T is, of course, the time because how much interest you have to pay is a function of time. Okay, so here's what happens. Let's go back to my my book for a moment. Now, I want to drive home this point by telling you this. If you invest $1,000 at age 20 and want to know how much it's worth when you're 60, that's 40 years obviously, and it makes 5% per year, then you are going to have $7,000 when you're 60. And you might say, I don't want to do that. I want to wait, I want to have some fun for 10 years. I'll invest when I'm 30. Okay, what does it cost you? Believe it or not, if you start at age 30, it's only going to give you $4,300. Why so much? Can 10 years make that big a difference? Yes, it can, okay? Because how you compound, and that's what this is called, guys, compounding, time is a critical factor. So when you sacrifice time, especially in the later years, in the out years, it has a huge impact. Okay, so to really stress my point, let's make the same decision, but now let's assume that you save $1,000 a year and invest it at 5%. You start at age 20, or you wait 10 years and start at age 30. What will you have when you're 60? Now that's $1,000 every year. You keep pumping money in. The money that you have in there is going to make you 5% every year, which I think we'll all agree is a conservative number. A good investor can make more than that, okay, as a percentage. So if you do that, if you start at age 20, that's 40 years, believe it or not, how much will you have put in? You will have put in $1,000 a year for 40 years, $40,000. It will have grown to $126,800. That's a lot of money. You only put in $40,000 and it grows to $127,000 roughly? Okay, but if you decide to wait 10 years and start at age 30, you only invest $1,000 a year for 30 years, still making 5%, it will only grow to $70,000. That's a lot of difference, okay? That's like $50,000. Does that extra 10 years make a difference? Do the math, you tell me, okay? What is the reason for that? Okay, I've done a little spreadsheet here that I will be using throughout our courses. And a lot of people think that when money grows, it grows in a linear fashion, okay? So let me illustrate that, okay? I'm not the best artist here, but I'll do my best for you. On this top graph, I put dollars, as you can see, on the vertical axis and time on the X or the horizontal axis. A lot of people think that money grows like that. It does not. Okay, when money grows through compounding, it does so through what mathematicians will call an exponential function. I'm not a mathematician. I won't get into that with you. Please don't challenge me on that, but if you choose to, I will explain it. So I'm going to come back here and show you on the next graph down how money really works. Okay, so let's take a look at my best approximation of that. When you compound, this is what money really does. That's the difference, ladies and gentlemen, that I described a moment ago in the later years. Now, you'll notice that the money is growing a lot more out here. It does a modest job, does a pretty good job for you in the early years, but when you leave it there, look at what happens in the later years. That is not something you can afford to ignore because, again, guys, this is your money. We analyze this from a business point of view, but this is affecting you from a personal point of view as well. Use time to your advantage. That is one of the secrets of successful investing, as I mentioned here at the beginning of chapter 2 in my book, and please read it thoroughly in your book. It's something you want to know, okay? All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over quickly back to my spreadsheet before I get to any PowerPoint slides. I want you to remember something. We grew up in an age of handheld financial calculators and now Excel. I'm a big believer in Excel. So it's very easy to figure out what interest is. But like the bookkeeper who's entering numbers into his computer, not understanding what they are, all right, that person remains at a certain level. The accountant, the professional accountant, the professional financial person knows how to operate at a level above that by understanding what that computer is doing. We're doing the same thing here. We can't just punch numbers into a computer or a calculator and accept what they have to say. To be in control of your financial fate and to be a very good financial person for your supervisor or maybe for yourself if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to know what's going on behind the calculator. That's my goal here, okay? So now let's go to the 4 tables I asked you to download for me. They're in the back of the book, but in the printed fashion, they're inflexible. If you downloaded my tables, they're very flexible. You can change them, keep them. They're my gift to you. You can use those forever, and they will help you personally as well as professionally. So get back to our basic equation up here, which says the amount of interest in dollars is a function of the principal, the amount of money involved, like if I loan you $1,000, okay, times 2 things. The rate, the amount of interest that I'm charging you if I loan to you, and the amount of time involved, because you don't want to pay me a year's worth of interest if I only loan you the money for 3 months. So time must be factored in as well. It's a very simple equation, okay? So when you look at my 4 tables, ladies and gentlemen, you're looking at an Excel matrix that takes the R and the T and combines them. It puts all the values in a matrix for you, okay? And that's exactly what your computer or your calculator are doing for you. So if you look across the top, you're going to see in each column the amount of interest expressed as a percentage rate. Okay, if you look at the T, and by the way, if you look at my downloads, only look at table number 1 or table A for now, okay? It's labeled FVIF for reasons I'll get into in a moment. Okay, so table 1 becomes the basis of all other tables. All the other tables are there for your convenience, but everything reduces down to table number 1, okay? And it says simply rate times time. So across the top you have the interest rates, and down the side you have the amount of time. It can be expressed in any period, but we're going to stick with years for now, okay? So it's the number of years. Across the top, the rate, down the side, the years, okay? So R and T have been combined into that table. Beautiful. That means whenever you run into an R and a T, you can find the rate on the, you can find the amount on that table in the matrix, multiply it by the P, the amount of dollars you have involved, and that's going to give you your result. Okay? The tables are all based on $1. Okay? So you can take any amount of dollars, multiply it by the table value, and magically you have a compounded amount. Forget about this first table, okay? This first table, nope, don't worry about it. The table we want to concentrate on is this one, because you always want to be aware of how your money will grow, or, looking at it the other way, how much money you have today that will grow to be worth something. And I think that as individuals, that's something we all want to know. Okay? Everything is going to be based on this one factor here. Let's put that in orange. All right, that's the magical number. 1 plus I to the nth power. Okay? And bear with me for 1 second. I want to turn off and change one thing in my matrix. I will be right back. Okay, I'm back. As you'll see, I've taken cell D10, the one in orange, and I've changed it so that that N is a superscript. It's a little more prominent as far as its function, okay? So, what does that mean? That formula, all important to us, it's the hub of our wheel here, is 1 plus I. Now, what is I? I is the interest rate, okay? So, 5%, that would be 0.05. Remember, percent is a fancy way of saying 100th, okay? So if we're dealing with 5%, I would be 5% or 0.05 mathematically. So 1 plus 0.05, okay, taken to the nth power. Now, I don't like dealing in exponents, friends, but that is where we get this really sweet curve from, so we have to understand it, okay? The tables are going to make that n, that exponent, easy for us. You can solve for n by using all kinds of calculations like logarithms. I don't know about you, but I can barely spell logarithms. So I want a shortcut. Everyone in business wants shortcuts. In business, time is money. You have to work efficiently, so if you can find a shortcut to do something, you're going to grab it, okay? We grab it from our tables if you don't have a calculator or a computer nearby. Okay, so n is the number of periods involved. So if I said, how much is $1 worth 3 years from now at 5%? It would be 1 plus I, 0.03. That's 1.03 total. To the nth power, what did I say, 5 years? N is 5. You'd multiply that by itself 5 times. Okay? So table number 1 is based on all those complications I just mentioned to you. All right? So we will be dealing with those tables shortly. So in the meantime, let's go take a look at a PowerPoint that's going to help us understand some of these things, and I will be posting this PowerPoint for you. Okay, I'm going to move back up here to the very beginning. All right, summarizing. One of the secrets of successful investing, and I published an article about the 7 secrets, and one of the first is, of course, money has a time value, so make sure you use it. Make sure you start early. If you're investing, start early. Okay? And as I demonstrated in my book earlier, look at the cost of procrastination. Waiting 10 years cost you $50,000. That's not something that you can afford to ignore. Okay, so that means money is worth less today, ladies and gentlemen, than it will be in the future. Okay, if you want to have $1 in the future, it's going to earn interest theoretically. So that means you can start with less, I should say, today. So if I want $1 a year from now, I can start with less. What I have now, that less amount will grow and it will equal $1. Okay? So if you have money, if you have someone else's money, that's a benefit to you. You might not invest it, but you could. So we have to consider that could. All right? If I loan you money, you've got a benefit if I'm not charging you interest. I am enduring a loss because I could be investing that money. I don't want you to have it. I want my money because I know I can make money. Look at the epigram on this chapter. Ben Franklin's quote said, money makes money and the money makes more money. Don't ever challenge me to say that 3 times fast. Okay? So you want to make sure that if you have the opportunity to have money in your hands at a low rate or no rate, that you take advantage of it because it comes with a benefit to you. That benefit is the time value of money, TVM, okay? The math is easy. I think I just showed you. It all relates down to that one equation. 1 plus I beg your pardon, to the nth power. Two factors, the interest rate and the amount of time involved. It's that easy, okay? All right, and here is that equation for you, repeated in my slideshow. Now, let's assume that you invest $1,000 and you make 5%. And every single year, you take out that 5%. So you invest $1,000 at 5%. That would be $50 by the end of 1 year, right? Okay. So you take that $50 out. You leave the 1,000 there. Year 2, it makes it the same amount. 50, take it out. 50, 50, 50, 50. You're always making 50 because you're taking the interest out. Okay? Compounding is different. Compounding says, I want to leave that money in there. That means that at the end of the first year, friends, you're going to have $1,050. The original 1,000 plus another $50. Now, how much money is working for you in year 2? Not 1,000, 1,050. So you're going to make a little bit more. That's where that curve comes in. If you leave your money in there, then that exponential curve works for you, and now you're making, as Ben Franklin said, interest on interest, and there you have it. And that's why time is such a critical tool for you to use. So taking your interest out every year, simple interest, in other words, is not what we want to do. Okay? What we want to do is leave our interest in there and compound. Okay? Compounded interest. Compounding means growing into the future. There's an opposite that I'll get to later. So when we invest money, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to keep all our money in there, working for us, and it's going to gain traction and get bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay? Why? Because of that little n that you see up there. Whenever you take something multiplied by itself over and over again, it's going to get bigger. You can't help it. It's like watching a monster grow in an old science fiction movie from the 60s. Boy, am I dating myself there. Here's an example for you. Okay, now, this time I'm going to leave my money in there, ladies and gentlemen. So I've got $1,000 that I invest. It earns me 5%, $50. At the end of the first year, my balance, I've now got $1,050. That whole amount is going to work for me in year 2. So I start by $1,050. I multiply it by 0.05. Now that's $52.50. It's a little bit bigger because it's interest on interest. So at the end of year 2, I now have $1,102.50. Now every year that goes by, I've got more and more money making money for me. You can see what happens. The interest is getting bigger and bigger every year. So if I leave my money in there for 7 years at 5% and never touch the interest, I will have earned $407, and my $1,000 will have magically become, well, what is 7 years times $50? That's going to be $350, right? So will I have $1,350? No, because I left my interest in there. My interest is earning interest. Now it's worth more. The magic of compounding has turned that. It's not linear. No, it's exponential. It's curvilinear. It's now worth $1,407. By leaving the interest in there, I have not done this. By leaving it in there, I'm starting to do that. Okay? That is the end of my first lecture to you, and thank you for your kind attention. I will be posting more of these because there is a lot of meat. There's a lot of substance, critical substance, to us as individuals as well as business persons in Chapter 2. I don't want to rush it, okay? So let's make sure we master this. I'm going to turn this off now, and I'll get back later with another lecture. I will post this worksheet, and have a nice day, okay? More to come. Bye.